So we're now going to move on to 6.5, which is on page 249. Now, this has been moved by Councillor Holst, and is going to be moving this one.
Certainly am.
And I believe Councillor Penny, you are seconding it? Yes, you are.
I will.
So, Your Worship, I got a notice motion that has been set for this meeting, and so I'd like to move the council consider the implication of adding fluoridation to the Whangarei District Council Public Water Supplies, and 2, the councils who represent the Whangarei District Council areas seek guidance from our residents of the Whangarei District by consulting on having fluoride added to any of council's public water supplies in accordance with the requirements of the Local Government Act 2002. Just following from that, so I've got a seconder, so that's good. I'll continue. We believe as representatives of the people of Whangarei District, it's our right and duty to actually make sure we follow the Local Government Act in its true sense. In the Local Government Act, it states quite clearly from 76, decision made. Every decision made by a local authority must, and the word must is always used in this, must be made in accordance with such provisions of local sections 78, 77, 78, 80, 81 and 82. You go over to the other clauses and it states in 82, the Local Government Act, this is straight from the book. Principles of consultation. Consultation that a local authority undertakes in relation to any decisions or other matter must be undertaken. You go further. You go over to page 83, special consultation process, and it's got a page and a half of the measures we've got to consider as a council to comply with the Local Government Act. I put on for background information and a note of motion that is circulated in our agenda that we take an oath to uphold the Local Government Act. Every councillor here knows what they read out at the start of this term. The big concern is we haven't asked our public for any comment on this matter. I've represented this council, I've represented ratepayers for a long time. And the biggest thing we've got to do is be able to look our ratepayers in the eye and say, we've actually fulfilled our obligation under the oath we took. It's quite interesting. The oath, I'll just remind the councillors around the table, when you have the oath, I, in this case, Philip Rossnell, declare that I will faithfully and impartially, according to the best by skill and judgment, execute and perform in the best interest of the Whangarei District, the powers, authorities, and duties vested in or imposed upon me as a councillor of the local authority, and will follow the Local Government Act 2002 and any other act. This is our message of trust to our ratepayers. If we break this down, the ratepayers just have a look at you and say, can I trust this person in his decision making if they can't follow the act? There's always consequences if you break that oath. If you go through a red light and there's a traffic officer there and sees it, he is compelled to catch you and fine you. But that is a breach of trust and you break the law. If you go to court and you take the oath, okay, I will tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. If you break that and it's shown that you've broken that, there are consequences. In this case, the biggest thing is we as councillors need to be is guided by the people we represent. We are their voice. The only voice I've got to come through us in these decisions. So this is not about putting the fluoride in the water. This is about asking our people's views on it. So I'm just going to wait, stay there and wait till the right of reply. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Holst. Councillor Benny, Councillor Holst, you might want to take your microphone off there. Councillor Benny?
Just a question, please.
Yep.
So I've heard third hand that you've received some notification from the possibly incoming Minister of Health regarding consultation. Can you share that with us, please?
I was going to do that, Councillor Benny.
That's important now.
Yep, okay. Dr. Shane Reddy has forwarded to me a supplementary order paper dated the 26th of October 2021, which actually has a clause in it, which is clause 4A. And in clause 4A, it states the views of local health authorities legislated to represent regional health interests where the local authority supply is situated. So Dr. Whangarei was quite clear when he made this original motion in 2021, when it was to go with the health of fluoridation of drinking water amendment bill, which actually put through that the Director General of Health had the total say. So he wanted our local areas to actually be informed and included with any discussions, any decision that we made. So that is still on the table. In the discussions that I have had, Councillor Penny, he is still on the view of making sure that amendment is put in there.
So just to clarify, because I think this is a really vital point. We accept that he is probably going to be the Minister of Health, and that you're saying that he is of the opinion that it should go to consultation before any decision is made.
That is what he has written here in his amendment bill, or should I say in the what do they call it, the proposed amendment. It's SOP number 38.
Thank you.
I cannot speak for him though. I'm just saying.
Yeah, that's
what he said for me. Councillor Olsen.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'll be guided by your greater knowledge. So I would like to propose a further motion. Is that
Not possible.
not possible?
Not allowed to move and notice, not allowed to change a notice of motion.
Thank you. So, okay, because so I'm stymied then.
A notice of motion is actually been set and put in by councillors. It cannot be changed.
Can
you speak to it?
Can I just speak to it or not? Oh, not for this. Sorry, I'm a wee bit ahead of the ball.
If you want to speak to this motion.
No.
Councillor Golightly. Yourself off, Jane.
Sorry. Your body, your choice.
Councillor. Not out that one.
Not your body, my choice. The necessity of freedom of choice and democracy lies in the fundamental role of safeguarding individuals and to ensure government responsibility. As elected members, democracy must be at the forefront of our roles. We act for you and we speak for you. Consulting for consent when making the decision to fluoridate water is essential for several reasons. Water fluoridation, a public health intervention aimed at preventing tooth decay, impacts an entire community. By seeking the consent of the affected population, we, as your representatives, acknowledge the importance of individual autonomy and personal matters that affect your health. It also ensures transparency, accountability, and inclusivity in the decision-making process, allowing you to express your concerns and your preferences. Moreover, informed consent respects the principle of medical ethics, as we all should have the right to make decisions about substances that we ingest. Consulting in the community for consent and water fluoridation decisions is not just a legal and ethical imperative, it is the only way to foster trust, respect, and well-being in public health initiatives. So a bit of background in my decision today to support the notice of motion of Councillor Hulse and Councillor Benny. And we have had some healthy debates recently, and I was asked, well, if you don't trust health professionals, then you must not take any other medications. That statement is flawed for this very reason. It is my choice. It is my choice to ingest medications, my choice, not yours. It is my choice to decide to give my daughter fluoridated toothpaste or fluoride supplements, not yours. It is my choice. It is my choice to ingest drugs for pain, for infection, or for illness. It is also my choice to drink or not drink alcohol. The right to make choices about what enters one's body is a fundamental aspect of personal autonomy and reflects the principle that we each have the capacity to make decisions about their own health, well-being, and lifestyle. However, this right comes with the important caveat that it doesn't extend to determining what liquids should put in their bodies, In our society that values individual freedom, respecting this boundary is crucial. History has shown that many medicines once deemed safe or extensively studied have sometimes been found to pose risks, underscoring the importance of questioning and not taking health professionals' recommendations lightly to ensure the highest level of safety and efficacy in healthcare. As recent as the 1960s, thalidomide was used to treat nausea in pregnancy, once considered a standard treatment, later recognised as detrimental. Bayer, a well-known pharmaceutical company, introduced heroin in medicines in 1898 as a pain reliever and cough suppressant. Pharmaceutical companies very recently created the opioid crisis with OxyContin, marketing the drug by recruiting young, attractive sales reps to pressure doctors into overprescribing. Smoking cigarettes up to the 1950s was considered safe, and more recently, the damage from e-cigarettes is still not understood. Containing energy drinks, and still arsenic was used in paints, fabric, and wallpaper. Frontal lobotomies for mental health patients. For mental health patients only ceased in 1967 when the patient died. Asbestos was a problem either until 1942, and mercury was considered a miracle cure until it killed you. And as a trained dental nurse in the 80s and 90s, we used to handle it daily. Now, the World Health Organization consider it to be one of the top 10 chemicals of major public health concern. And one for the men, fluoride negatively suppresses testosterone production. To think that our times and our health professionals are any different is simply naive. The American Dental Association in 2023 stated that children under 6 must not swallow toothpaste. They are to spit it out. That children under 6 months old should not be fed any feed formula mixed with fluoridated water. So do I trust health professionals to tell me what I put in my body? No, I do not. Do I have the right to vote yes to have your water fluoridated without your consent? No, I do not. Trusting health professionals without any critical evaluation is naive, because like any profession, there can be variations in expertise, personal biases, and occasionally financial incentives that may not always align with the individual's best interests. 97% of the EU banned fluoridating water. Only 10% of the UK is fluoridated. Only 3 countries worldwide, Ireland, Singapore, and Israel, have fluoridated water mandated. China, banned. Japan, less than 1%. In fact, only 11 countries in the world have more than 50% of their population drinking fluoridated water. We are elected to represent. We are elected to speak on your behalf, to make choices that can be contentious and to make decisions. So if we think that we have the right to make the decision to fluoridate water without consultation, we have no right to be here as an elected member. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Again, please. Yes, that's great. Councillor, I keep reminding you, and I will remind you again, you are to speak to this direction or to the councillors, and I'll highlight that very clearly because the cameras don't see the back of your head.
Your Worship, just point of order.
Yep.
Are the cameras on today?
No, they
Can't see
No,
them.
they are not.
they're not.
Why not?
Sorry, councillors, that's a question asked to me. Like the other councillors, please stop filling in. We need to ask our team here because they have been working, and if there is a technical problem, then there might have been a technical problem again today. They've just highlighted again that there is a technical problem again today. But it is recording, and it is recording. It can be put up for late use.
Excuse me for the intrusion.
Sorry, into the public. I'm sorry. No, the councillors are reminded again. This is a council meeting. Okay. So we've had the motion moved and seconded. Is there anyone else to talk to it? Councillor Penny, since you've asked the question previous.
Sure. I'd like councillors to forget about the next item. The next item has nothing to do with this notice of motion. This notice of motion is not about whether we are for or against fluoridation. I brought this up at a meeting several weeks ago, and I likened it to three waters. When three waters legislation was being imposed on us, as a council, we decided that we were going to oppose it. We've been consistent in our stand since then. For me, this is another step up again. This is bigger than three waters. This is an issue that has divided the nation, and it's actually divided the world. This is about the mandating of government authorities of what goes in our bodies. So our Councillor Holson and I, our notice of motion simply says that we need to consider the implications of fluoride. I don't believe that we are educated well enough, and I don't believe there are a lot of members of the public who are educated enough. That is the first step. As part of that, we need to go to consultation. I cannot see how anybody can oppose that. This is a major issue of what we put in our body, and we are asking you as councillors to support us on the fact that we need you to think about the implication of adding fluoride to our water supplies, and then to consult with the public. Pretty basic stuff. New Zealand has a real proud history of fighting against things that the government has said, and Councillor Govt has highlighted quite a few things, and there are a whole heap of things. But I look at one, remember when the government thought that women were not smart enough to vote? The woman protested, and we all know the result of that. Whether we should go back on that decision is a
Councillor.
thing. Sorry, I just apologise. I had to throw that in. I couldn't let go. But I think now is the time for us to stand up. First of all, and I'm not saying whether we're for or against fluoridation. Now is not the time for that. Simply, the notice of motion says, let's go to consultation. As His Worship has read out from Dr. Reti, who will likely be the incoming Minister of Health, he sounds like he is open to that. I think we need to explore that more. That should be able to be done in the next few weeks. One way or the other, we need to explore that. If that's the case, all bets off, we get into it and we consult with the public and we move on. But I think we should be pausing at this time. We should be supporting this note of motion and going to a consultation with the public. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Benny. Councillor McKenzie.
Your Worship, could I just ask a clarification question around that statement that you read out? We haven't been provided with that information from Dr. Reti. You said that it was an excerpt from a proposed amendment within the 2021 bill.
Correct.
That he's just forwarded you through recently.
Correct.
And it was in relation to the previous iteration of the bill, which was giving DHBs powers because it says local health authorities,
Correct.
if I remember what you said correctly. So he hasn't actually said anything about local government within his statement.
He refers to local authority supply. So where the local authority supplies it.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
So I'll just repeat the statement in there, which is basically C, the views of the local health authorities legislated to represent regional health interest where the local authority supply is situated.
So local health authority, it says.
Yep.
We're not a health authority.
No, we are under a health authority at that time, which was the Northern Health Board.
Yeah, but that's disbanded. Yeah, so okay.
Well, now we have
thank you. I just want to clarify whether it directly stated
so
that
local Te Whatu Ora is now a health authority as well.
Sure, but we're not.
Right.
WDC is not.
Local authorities are where we are.
Yep. Just want a clarification that's not provided within the agenda, so it's something that we haven't been able to assess properly and make a view on. And it's been brought up very late in the piece. I think it is a very relevant piece of information and we need clarification on it. If there is intention to allow councils explicitly to consult, then I think we should definitely consider that and do that. If I may just speak after having asked the question. I just want to address a few of the statements made in the background section of the notice of motion. It states, losing our rights of democracy. This is an amendment to the Health Act that went through a full parliamentary process. I went back and watched the videos on the Parliament TV on the website and watched all the hearings and listened to the MPs speak about this bill. It was supported by all four parties in Parliament, ACT, Greens, National and Labour. Representatives from all of them spoke in support of this amendment. When it went to the vote, it was unanimous. There was no one who voted against it. So to say that it's not democratic or that it's somehow diminishing democracy because council has not been involved in it is not true. It has been democratic at a national level. It states in the background, this has been imposed on residents by one person. I have to contest that as well. The amendment to the Health Act was passed by a 120-seat parliament with representatives from all over the country. Had 3 readings in parliament. The background asks, why 14 councils? This is due to the time and cost that it takes to roll out a national initiative. This is the first stage. The Director General has stated the first stage will increase fluoridation rates for the population from 50 to 62 with an overall target of 80%. So there are further stages to come. Will government be funding 100%? Well, in the next item, it states what the government will be funding. It's everything, all of the capital costs except for the gate. Consultation. The notice of motion highlights a lack of consultation. Okay, sure, if there is legislation that allows us to consult further, brilliant. But currently there is not, but there was consultation undertaken within that bill. There were 1,200 submissions made and there was a full select committee hearing process that was undertaken. So to suggest that there has not been any consultation with the public is completely false. It hasn't been consulted on by us, but it has by the Parliament. It also suggests that the LGA may or may not be overruled by other pieces of legislation. The LGA does not sit in isolation. It interacts with other pieces of law, and we've had legal advice stating that there is no legislative leeway whether to comply with this or not. So if we go ahead and choose not to comply with this, what do we stand to lose? We stand to lose $4.4 million of capital funding. States it in the agenda.
Sorry, Councillor, this is the previous agenda. We haven't got to that other agenda yet.
It's all relevant to this point. We stand to lose $200,000 on the first day of the breach and $10,000 each day thereafter.
Can I point of order, please?
Yep, Councillor Benny.
That's, you know, we're talking about truths and non-truths. That what Councillor McKenzie's saying is not fact. There's a possibility that we could lose the funding, but there is no certainty. And the fact that the fine is not $200,000, it's possibility of up to $200,000. So I think we've got to get those facts right. So I just correct those.
Okay, thank you.
It's fine. No worries. Happy to take that on board. Thank you, Councillor Benny. So $10,000 a day, up to a total of $8.25 million in the first year and $3.65 million every year thereafter. There are councillors in this room who have stated that they don't think that the government will follow through on that legislation. That may be the case, but am I willing to risk tens of millions of dollars of ratepayers' money on a hunch that they won't follow through? No, I am not. I think that's fiscally irresponsible. Since we were elected a year ago, we have sat down in this room and talked about what we want to achieve this term. And time again, it comes up that we want to have a closer working relationship with central government in order to progress initiatives for our district. If we take a stand against this now at this very, very late stage, we risk becoming a pariah, an outlier, an untrustworthy partner. And I don't think that is a basis to form a good working relationship. And on that basis, I will not be supporting this motion.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Mackenzie. Councillor Connor.
Thank you. In relation to the email that was supplied to us from the Chief Executive to all of us, how does that fit in relation to this today?
Councillor, once again, this is a separate motion. So realistically, that information was provided for the next item.
Okay.
This particular item is to do with the notice of motion. Now, I need to remind Councillor again, this is to do with the notice of motion, which has been provided by Councillor Holst and Councillor Benny.
As it does state at the bottom of it, and this states about consultation, how does that paragraph fit within this notice of motion?
There is nothing stopping us from consulting with our public as in relation to this item that is here.
So another question as well. Should this go through? Should the next agenda item go through? We may still be consulting, but on still fluoridating water.
So again, the two items are completely separate. One is saying for consultation, one is saying for building the equipment. Two completely separate items need to be taken and considered completely separate.
I'm asking the question.
Yeah.
I'll speak to it, please.
Yep.
This is a very contentious topic, as we've heard, as we see, and appreciate people for using their voices and also coming into the chamber today too. One of the issues, and it's Councillor Mackenzie has raised it just prior, and I was going to mention it as well, was that we are wanting to build a better relationship with central government, and we're constantly complaining that we're not being engaged with properly, and there is a lot of work that needs to be done. But disregarding a directive for us to do that is very difficult.
Point of order.
Yep.
It doesn't say
Councillor
that anywhere.
Councillor Holst's point of order is that there is no, within the motion, there is nothing there about saying not proceeding with the item. The next item, this is solely to do with the consultation. So Councillor Connor, can you just rephrase what you're saying in that line, please?
I'll attempt to. Sorry, I'm just getting over a cold.
Okay.
Can you speak up?
So Councillor.
Okay. Sorry, is this better? Oh. I just bring up the notice of motion, please. I will directly address the notice of motion. I take issue with the way it's been stated out. I take issue with the first paragraph compared to the second paragraph. The first paragraph states that council considers the implication, right? And although be it what Councillor Halsey said was councillors, but then the second paragraph has words that do not need to be in this particular point. Who represent the Whangarei District Council area. It, by its definition, gives the exact same point. I find this is a loaded comment. I don't know who decided to bring it up, but I take issue with that. I fully represent the Whangarei District as best as I possibly can. Every word that we hear, every piece of information that we get, we take into account when we make our decisions. We make all of these things based on information out there as well. I fully support listening to the people and also the government, considering the fact that we are also a government. My issue that is when we are making these decisions also, not these decisions, but other decisions, there are people who will look at us and say, I don't believe that, I don't trust that, of the decisions that we will wholeheartedly feel is appropriate. every single one of us. I will highlight also the fact that the education of the general public and wider public on specific areas, including governance, is lacking. It is one of those things that going out will only go out to opinion rather than actual legitimate, educated understanding of this. And we will only be able to get that general idea of it rather than a fully informed, educated doctor, for the lack of a better term. I wouldn't trust my health to somebody who is not a doctor.
Thank you, Councillor Connor. Councillor McKenzie, you have a question?
Yes, I do. I just wanted to ask Your Worship, were we not given legal advice yesterday by the CE that states council cannot consult on decisions that it is not legally that it is legally unable to make?
The opinion that was provided by the CEO was last point there was consultation requirements under section 78 to 83 of the Local Government Act 2002 do not apply to whether or not to fluoridate, because council cannot consult on decisions that it is legally unable to make. In brackets, there is also provision within the Health Act that the local authority is not required to consult on any matter relating to the Director General's direction. Close bracket.
So just to summarize, at this point,
Question?
we cannot, I'm asking a question, Your Worship. We cannot legally consult at this point.
So your question is,
The
can we?
The opinion that has been given, the legal opinion states that we cannot legally consult because it's not a decision for council.
Councillor, you need to rephrase your question there, and your question is, can we? Can we consult?
Yeah.
Legally.
Yes, we can consult.
That's not what the legal advice says.
Where is Rebecca? Is she? Rebecca, would you come over the microphone? Let's use the microphone, Rebecca.
Okay. We can't consult on a decision that we are not able to make, but we can consult. There's nothing saying that we can't consult. So I should have been clear in that sentence. So if it's a decision whether or not to fluoridize, I would say no, we cannot consult because it's not our decision. If it's consulting to views on community, I mean, I suppose we can always do that.
What would we be consulting on if we were not consulting on whether to fluoridate or not?
Councillor, within the motion that's been provided, it clearly seek guidance from the residents of Whangarei directed by consulting on having fluoridation added to any council's public water supply. There's nothing stopping the council from actually asking the public what they want. That is perfectly within the rights. We are mandated by central government to do what they ask. There's still nothing wrong with us asking the public. So the notice of motion which has been provided is still legally correct.
I'm sorry, I don't understand the logic. I think that is just asking whether people want fluoride in their water or not. That is just worded in a sort of obscure way, but that is essentially the question.
Okay. Well, we've provided that answer, Councillor. Councillor Roca?
Oh, thank you, Worship. I feel like we are kind of talking semantics at the moment. To me, like my opinion, the notice of motion simply asks, are we happy to go to consultation, and whatever form that question is posed. However, technically we could just ask the public how they feel about it, if there were some legalities around it. But I feel like the notice of motion is simply, are we happy to go to consultation? Here are some potential risks if we do. We could prolong the situation, whatever that is, but here are some potential risks. Should we go to consultation? Am I correct in assuming that?
That, Councillor, is a correct assumption of
Yes,
the situations.
So my opinion, based on that, I would be happy to support this motion based on that fact. That's it.
Thank you, Councillor Hooker. Councillor Reid.
Thank you, Worship. Well, here we are again. I just about pulled all my teeth out getting through this one. Fluoride in toothpaste is great stuff. I use it every time I go diving. It stops my mask from fogging up. But other than that, I would not put it in my mouth. We're in a bit of a tricky spot here.
Sorry, Councillor, I need to refine you. We're back to moving on to the motion.
Yep,
Okay.
I'm coming in with that.
Okay.
And it was the Director General of Health who put the mandate on us. And it was a male at that time. I do recall that quite succinctly, just for everybody's information. And there's ramifications if we don't go with it from the legal perspective. And there's also ramifications from the public view. And personally, I'd rather be offside with the government than the people I have to live with and support and represent. So with that, I will be supporting the motion.
And Councillor Reid. Councillor Holmes.
Your Worship, thank you. So just very briefly, look, addressing the motion directly. So point one, that we consider the implications. I think we're doing that. So I think there's no question of that. It's exactly what we're doing now. We have done previous meetings and we've done it a lot. And second section is that we seek guidance from residents. So I want to talk to that for a moment. And it was very useful to get the clarification on the legal advice we got yesterday. So that was really very helpful, because it's clear that we can't challenge a decision that we have no authority to make. So we can't challenge the decision of the Director General of Health. The Director General of Health, in my understanding, is appointed by the government of the day. The government of the day is appointed following an election that we've just had. So that's democracy in action. And I don't think there's any question that the Director General of Health has had and has the authority to make these calls. So I just make a couple of points, please, if I may. Just referring to the email you've had from Dr. Retty, again, none of us have seen this. So that came out of the blue a wee bit. I do recall during the recent election campaign, the PM-elect gave an interview, which I saw online, Radio New Zealand, where he admonished one of his candidates for speaking out against the introduction of fluoride, and reiterated that in his view, and he wasn't PM-elect at the time, that he supported the centralisation, the decision around the addition of fluoride going to central government away from districts and regional government councils. And he also supported the decision of the Director General of Health in making that call. So again, I'm not commenting on whether the PM-elect or potentially the Minister of Health maybe how they're going to square that one, but it seems that they are not in agreement, or at least Dr. Shane Retty 2 years ago, when he produced that opinion, was not in agreement with what his boss is saying now. So that's just a comment. I'm pleased to see that the debate does not focus on the science. That's a relief to me, because again, I'm not a scientist, and I think it's right that we don't focus on that. And my belief is that we have to focus on a single point of truth in this now. And I may be naive in this, but I would rather believe the Director General of Health than I would any other opinion at the moment. And that's my personal view. So to cut to the chase, if we are talking about consulting on whether our ratepayers and residents, how they feel about having fluoride in their water, I think that's one thing. My issue is, if we do that, it feels that we are unfairly and unreasonably and unrealistically raising expectations with the public, that we then have the authority to do something about that. And that really worries me, because the way the motion is worded at the moment,
says we'll go out and ask. If the opinion come back says no, we don't want to do it, then we've already established from our own legal opinion that we don't have any authority to challenge that decision. So I am confused over this, where we go with this. So my inclination is that it is far too risky financially, and we're governors here with financial responsibility to go out on a limb and challenge a legally binding opinion and directive by the Minister of the Director General of Health. So I'm really struggling with this, Your Worship. Thank you.
Yeah. And I appreciate your statements there, Councillor Holmes. Just to clarify again, Dr. Shane Reddy made it very, very clear to me, and he's made it very, very clear to anyone who's ever asked him, he has always been in favour of fluoridation. He just felt that when they put that amendment up, that the public needed to be included within the consultation process. So that was, and he still had no problem with that, and he was quite, as of yesterday, quite clear. And the reason why he emailed this to me in his relation to our agenda this morning, he just emailed it to me this morning. So I've only just received it this morning. So again, I cannot comment about what his future intentions would be. I cannot comment about what the future government's intentions will be. I can just say, well, this is what I've received. Okay. And as to your other comments there, there has been many times where our council, and not just our council, but other councils, have actually questioned directions that central government have made and actually gone out for public consultation. One that's presently going out for public consultation, or a referendum approach, is actually done by the Far North District Council and by the New Plymouth Council, which talks about road maintenance on highways, and they are pushing for the central government to put more maintenance on the state highways. So again, this is what's happening at the present moment. So councils do have the right to question and ask their public for feedback, and how they choose that feedback and how they take that feedback is over to the council afterwards. Okay, hopefully that clarifies a few things that you've asked, and I do appreciate the statements that you've made. Councillor Connick, do you have a question?
This is in regard to the email that was sent out. Do you have this email?
Which email?
That email that was sent out to us from Simon Weston, the Chief Executive.
Sitting in front of me.
What is the title of that email?
The title of that email says Councillors' Notice of Motion.
Thank you. This information provided to us, this letter that I addressed in my comments, were disregarded because they weren't of this notice of motion. Yet the title of this says notice of motion.
My apologies, Councillor. That's fine. I'll retract what I've said about that.
Appreciate it.
Is that your question?
That was the first question. It's just I have an issue because other people have been able to speak to it, and I was tripped up because of this.
Okay. Councillor Olsen, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Worship. A couple of questions, if I may. Firstly, have other councils opposed this? Is it my understanding that there are other councils that are going through this process and are opposing fluoridation?
With that question, I will have to refer to our CE.
Thank you.
Thank you. Rebecca, I'm just wondering if you can provide a little bit of history as to what has happened previously in this space.
Okay, currently councils are talking about it. Rotorua District Council has had the same discussions that you are currently having. They've passed a resolution to continue with implementing the infrastructure while expressing some of the views that are held here. Since the legislation was changed in 2021, there's only been one challenge to a council decision. That was in Wellington, the Wellington water decision, and that was unsuccessful. So those are the two discussions and challenges that I know of lately since the change to the legislation.
Thank you. Second question. Are government prepared to bankrupt local governments with the fines? I mean, you know.
I'm sorry, Councillor. That is a question that, again, we cannot answer. That is a central government question, and that is something
that's what will happen.
Yeah,
I assume. Okay, and just finally, you know, let's just bring this back and refocus on the original motion, which is, do we or do we not go to public consultation on this
So,
matter.
Councillor, your question
I'll
really.
finish now.
Okay, you need to be very clear with your questions, Councillor. Councillor, I will point out I'm getting a little bit tired of the using questions as statements. Please be careful with that. I will pull you up from now on. Councillor Peters, question?
Mine is not a question, and I haven't spoken yet. And I won't speak long, Your Worship. I feel like we are dancing around on the head of a pin. We're trying to make decisions where we actually don't have any right to make decisions. Where, we have talked a lot about not wasting money, and we're putting our ratepayers' money at risk. And we're also putting stress on our staff because they still have to do this, and they really, really need to get on, because otherwise they won't be able to do it in time, and we will incur fines. And I just don't want to second guess things. Whether you're for or against it, we're not able to make this decision. So we can go out and have a nice, warm conversation with people about whether or not they want fluoride in their water, but we can't do anything about it. So, because it's not our jurisdiction. So, yeah, that was long, but I was going to say thank you.
Appreciate that, Councillor Peters. Councillor Cooper, great to see you here, and we did put your apologies for being late.
Thank you. I'm so pleased to be back in time for this debate, Your Worship.
We are dealing with the notice of motion, just to highlight.
Yes, thank you. I had picked that up. And it's interesting, isn't it? We are avoiding the sites, and like Councillor Holmes, I'm pleased about that because it is quite tricky. I believe that Auckland people have been fluoridated for a while now, and perhaps that explains some of the behaviour we see from Auckland.
Councillor?
I don't know. But I do know when they come up here, they take my park at the local supermarket. I guess it comes back to being clear, isn't it? And people have said that. Councillor Olsen was one of just said it just then. What are we talking about here? It comes down to representation, representing the views of our people, and it comes down to complying with the law. What this motion, if I've heard correctly, as I've been sitting here, and I'm pretty much going to repeat what Councillor Holmes says, and you could argue it is a little bit misleading, because what it says is that we will consult with the people of Whangarei about whether or not they want fluoride added to their public water supplies in accordance with the requirements of the Local Government Act, which we've been told we have no control over changing that, right? So we're not asking whether we will put it in, we're asking if the public want it, knowing that we have no control, as Councillor Peters has just said. So would it not be fairer to the public to say, direct your objections to this to the central government? Because we actually do not have any control over this. But what we do know is that we have a legal implication, obligation by law to implement the direction from the Director of Health. So then you say, and Councillor Benny has said, we stood up against Three Waters and we challenged it. We did challenge it. And we all of us who are on the last term and are here, we supported that. But at the same time as challenging it, we complied with the requirements of central government. So while we challenged it, we also provided the information that we were required to do under the Local Government Act to the authorities so that they could continue on their process of
Point of order,
please. Yeah, Councillor Benny, your point of order.
So he's moved on to the next agenda item. This is not about whether we comply or not. This is about the notice of motion solely. And I think that's the biggest.
Councillor Benny, your point isn't taken. Councillor Cooper, you'll just rephrase to make sure you're referring to this.
No, Your Worship, because Councillor Benny talked about Three Waters in his address, and I'm merely addressing remarks that the learned ex-policeman made in his address. So I mean, it's quite good fun, isn't it? All we're doing is having a debate, and I think we should be allowed to do that, Your Worship, and not rely on points of order when it suits one side of the argument but not others. So,
Councillor,
thank you very much.
I beg your pardon.
I appreciate that.
Councillor,
Councillor Benny. So,
Councillor Cooper,
yes, sir.
okay, when we make these comments and a point of order has been pointed out, the point of order has been made to say that you could please focus on this item. I appreciate the point of order that's been made. I have said that previously to other councillors. You were not in the room when I said that, and I will make it very clear, please.
Are we allowed to answer arguments that are raised in this debate?
You are to talk to the motion in hand, please.
See. Well, it seems to me a little one-sided, Your Worship, but we'll agree
Councillor,
if we disagree on that one and move on. So, what are the implications of us if we do not comply with the direction which we've been given a legal opinion say that we have to do, and that is in this thing, as my learned colleague beside me with the mask on, and I noticed today a gold earring in his ear has put out there.
Councillor,
Yes, sir.
please do not pick on other councillors and their decorum.
It's not.
Please focus on the motion.
No, he doesn't mind me saying that, Your Worship. So, anyway, there we go. So we're quite, there are implications, aren't there? And I guess one of the implications, as Councillor Mackenzie has pointed out, if I may bring that up, he's so bold, he did talk about it before, the fines. Then the other implications, of course, is the example that we set. So if we say we actually are not going to comply with the law as we legally have to, what then do we say to people who come in and say, actually, I don't believe I get value for money from you as a council, I'm not going to pay my rates. So I personally believe that we should ask the people to take their genuine concerns, which I completely understand that they have, and I don't disagree with some of them, and take them to the central government. I think we should be very clear that hopefully it has been made clear today, we do not have a legal ability to change the direction that's been given to us. And so therefore, I won't be supporting the motion, Your Worship.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Councillor Harding.
It's been great listening to the debate and the positions from each of the councillors. I feel like this is about mana. This is about mana. This is about the power, the decision making, and we need to be careful about that mana, because if you go out to the people, you don't want to set a precedent that the consulting, the ratepayers, the residents around what's your option, your opinion, and what goes into your body, as Councillor Golightly said. We just had a whole heap of people in here this morning about toxic sprays. Are we setting a precedent? E te kora matua. So we need to be careful in terms of our own mana around what we are going out and taking to the people, because it sounds like we're taking a kaupapa where we're making promises. We will give you the opportunity to have your say, but in actual fact, it's already been made for us. But to be good elected members, we will let you have your say. But your say is actually going to be rolled somewhere down in Wellington. And then we're going to have to impose some higher rates on you, because while you were having your say, we got hit by these compliance and these regulations. And nobody wins. So just be careful, be cautious, kia tūpato, because it is about mana. Thank you very much. Kia ora.
Well done, Councillor Harding. Councillor Olsen, have you got another question? Be very careful.
Yes, I do, Your Worship. Is not our role as councillors to represent our ratepayers? And yes, Deb,
Your Worship, are we sticking to the motion?
Deb, yes, I did. I'm hearing you, and thank you for that. But our role, we've taken an oath to represent our ratepayers. And
Councillor,
that's what
okay,
this
Councillor, you've now
motion
made a statement. That's enough, please. Councillor. Again, councillors, I highlight and I make it very, very clear. Councillor Olsen, your statements will be rescinded because you will not be able to make those sort of statements again, please. There is a time and a place to make, councillor, there is a time and a place to make statements. You were given that time freely and of opinion you had it clearly with everybody else. Councillor Holst, would you like to write a reply?
Sure. Well, one thing is that we're a lot more educated than we were last week, and thank all the council for taking this matter seriously. I just want to address a few comments from around the table. Comment about why in the notice of motion that I put the council of the Whangarei district, because this is an urban and rural mandate. Right? There's not many in the rural areas getting fluoridated water. So how can you say a comment like that? That's the whole point of discussion. We've got, probably 40% of our public not being mandated with fluoride anywhere. The other thing is, I also did a lot of research on this, and around the country, there's a number of councils taking very, very strong action and taking court action based on legal opinion. Well, guess what? Every lawyer's got a different opinion, and that's why you've got courts. But I go back to the original Health Act, 1956, 67 years ago, and the Local Government Act's actually 2002, and it was modernised to take in consideration what this Act was. The Act actually said public health agency to consult. In order to ensure the views of the public, persons involved in the provision of personal health services and public health services and other persons are able to be considered in the formulation of public health agency advice to the Director General under Section 3E3. The public health agency shall institute a program of regular consultation with such members of the public. It's in the Act. Now, we're not putting an motion in. I'm so pleased I keep it short, but every word is challenged just about. This is such a simple question. Do you look at your ratepayers in the eye and say, we've got your back, we're going to protect you, we're going to do our best as our local council to protect you as our local residents? I think there's a lot of comments made today that I think the council will go away and just reconsider some of them. We set up a very good thing here at council to do it to Card area. We're asked to set up a standing committee. Councillor Hardy, Councillor Cooper involved in the process, Councillor Reid. And we said we'll be guided by the Local Government Act to set up what we can do under that Act and to give the better decision making power. Well, that committee's up and running and actually putting it in the country because we followed the Act we took an oath to do. And under the same Act, it says about consultation, our ability to engage with our public. And at the same time, all the way through, all the councils have heard me say many times, when you get a contentious issue, the best way is go down to base level and take the people with you. Don't oppose your public. They're the ones that pay for this building. They're the ones that do all the funding. So whatever we do, basically thought back to the card here, how well it's going. But that one mostly moved this morning. That'd be the first in the country to set up something like that. First in the country. So that will all come back by us following local government. And now we've got council saying you do not want to follow the oath you took to the local government act. And you've said that. And I just want to conclude by a comment I put at the bottom of the on behalf of Councillor Benny and I read out. We as elected members have a duty of care for our residents, and therefore we question the current situation. That's all we're doing. We're just questioning it. And we'll be out for clarity from the newly elected government. Our mayor just read out what we're seeking. So why is all that abstract stuff being brought into this conversation? So council, please, next time notice the motion comes along, please stick to the actual wording of the notice of motion. Thanks for the support around the table. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holst. Thank you for the right reply. Yes. A division has been called by Councillor Connell. All those in favour of the notice of motion that's been put forward on 6.5, please raise your right hand. Those against, please raise your right hand. There it has been carried, councillors. We'll now move on to item 6.6, which is on page 253. Now, I believe, Councillor Olsen, you have a different motion at this point that you would like to put up.
I do, Your Worship. Oh, excuse me. So yes, I would like to move the motion that council ceases fluoridation requirements until the result of the public consultation, which has just been passed, is known. That council undertakes the consultation process with Whangarei district residents. We write urgently to the incoming government seeking whether they support or otherwise the directive from the Director General of Health to mandate fluoridation.
Councillor Olsen, you have moved this motion. Councillor Golightly is seconding. Would you like to speak to that, please?
Yes, I would. Thank you. Thank you. Sorry, I'm not really used to this, but I'll get there. Right. If you, I at 2:30 this morning, I was formulating this. So yeah, as most of you know, I'm very passionate about this subject for many reasons. The main reason being freedom of choice.
Councillor,
What?
you're speaking to this way.
What have I done?
Speak to this way, please, not to the public.
Okay. Right. As one of my fellow councillors so kindly pointed out following yesterday's meeting, how can anyone take you seriously? On one hand, you're advocating to curb spending due to financial restraints, and on the other, here you are pushing for a poll, which will cost the ratepayers money. When I ran as a candidate for council, I promised to support democracy, which to me appears to be being eroded. I am not here for my own agenda, but to represent the public, who I believe should have a choice and a voice, hence pushing for a poll. We need to hear from our public as to what their wishes are and be guided by them as to whether we fight this mandate or not. And yes, this will incur cost. At least we can say we have followed the democratic process. To me, this topic is about democracy. To have a mandate thrust upon us is not following the democratic process. And I know there are two sides to every story for and against fluoridation, and many studies here and overseas have been conducted from which people can draw their own conclusions. I can look at this from both sides, from a counsellor's point of view and also from a medical professional point of view. We all have our own opinions, and we've had all that this morning, and all opinions should be respected. As I've stated at previous meetings on this subject, the people who really need this treatment won't receive it due to being on tank water. And the percentage of drinking water consumed doesn't justify the expense, which are being told we will be in the vicinity of $4 million. Surely in a time when money is tight, should we not consider a poll, which is the cheapest option, which would be a huge saving? We have had the judge's verdict on the case current. If we had the judge's verdict on the case currently before court, which will determine if this mandate contravenes the Bill of the Human Rights Act, and if the decision was found to be against the decision, then we wouldn't be looking at a bill of millions of dollars to implement this mandate, and the Director General of Health directive would actually be null and void. Fluoridation should be a personal choice, as Councillor Golightly has stated, and if government is so keen to implement this scheme, there may be subsidisation subsidisation of oral or topical application should be considered along with education on correct oral hygiene and diet when people can have a choice to treat or not. I would just like to finish by saying thanks to my fellow councillors who have been supportive in this fight.
Okay, Councillor Olsen, you've had your original motion. Do we have anyone to speak to this motion? No? Oh, Councillor Rocker. Yes, Councillor Rocker, would you like to speak to it?
Thank you, Bishop. So, the notice of motion we've just had previous to this one, I supported that on the premise that the process I supported that in the thoughts that we would continue to progress the mandated parts that we need to do in terms of council, in terms of government legislation. I supported our ability to consult with the public in the thoughts that we would still be continuing with our obligations to do those things. So to cover those bases and also be able to consult with our wider community. So with that in mind, I won't be able to then support this motion because I was under the understanding that we would be continuing the process of those mandated legislations. So I just wanted to make that clear. Thank you, Bishop.
Appreciate that. Councillor Connor,
I'd like to move an amendment that we go back to the original motion, please.
do you have a second?
I don't know.
Are you moving that or are you?
I just said I would like to move
Okay,
an amendment to go with the original motion.
Original motion,
Second.
which you'll have to read.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, and Councillor Mackenzie seconded. Councillor, just before we do that, just 1 second, I just got to check something here. So I just had to make sure there was definitely no double negative in there. So Councillor Connor, if you could read, please.
6.6, water treatment plants fluoridation contract.
You need to speak up. I'm sorry, Councillor.
Recommendation is that Council 1 notes the legal advice that A, Council does not have a standing to seek an injunction on the basis of another party's legal proceedings. B, there does not appear to be any realistic grounds for Council to seek relief. C, any attempt to pursue relief through judicial review / interim relief would be inexpensive and is likely to be contested by the Ministry of Health. 2, approves the Chief Executive to authorize funding agreement. 3, approves the amount of $2,901,133 in addition to the $1,600,000 budgeted amount in the 2023-24 annual plan, making a total budget amount of $4,501,133 plus GST for fluoridation, of which $4,403,133 is funded by the Ministry of Health. 4, approves the award of CON 23011 for water treatment plants fluoridation construction to Belcon Construction Limited for the sum of $3,708,568.06 exclusive of GST. 5, notes that the total budget of $4,501,133 excludes the fluoridation of Poroti water treatment plant. 6, notes that if the contract is not awarded, A, Council may incur fines of up to $200,000 if fluoridation has not been commenced by the dates directed, and further fines of $10,000 per day during while the offence continues. B, the Ministry may reduce or withdraw its $4,403,133 funding, meaning that the cost of fluoridation could fall to ratepayers. C, it is likely that the cost of the work will increase if fluoridation is implemented in the future.
Councillor, since it has been moved and seconded, would you like to speak to it?
Thank you.
Yes, right. Yep.
Thank you. I'm looking back and to the last long-term plan which we had, which I fought for as much as I possibly could for waste minimization and reducing that $200,000 on the first day of this is how much we managed to get into the long-term plan for 1 year. The amount of volume of waste we have is constantly growing. And even that first year had to be reduced. I had to take that hit. I accepted it because our budgets were tight, but waste is everywhere and it's in everything.
Councillor, I will remind you that to keep focusing on
I am focusing on the $200,000 fine.
Yep.
Plus $10,000 every day.
Yep.
Afterwards. Thank you. I have been fighting for reduced waste services for a long time. And if people are so flippantly able to say, let's just go and fight this, incur I'm not even going to add up the total of how much it's going to be for this. It's just, we are not deciding in this agenda piece to fluoridate our water. The decision has already been made for us. It is not our decision. We are awarding a contract here to a particular group who then will be putting it in. We already have chlorine in our water. This is to make the water able to be drunk. And in a concentrated form, that too is a very harsh chemical to be able to deal with. And yes, if that got out or went too much into it and there was a catastrophe in that space, that also could have disastrous consequences. I'm not comfortable just throwing away ratepayers' money when I'm keeping on struggling as much as I possibly can and volunteering as much as I possibly can for the community to do the best that I can so that our costs are reduced.
Thank you, Councillor Connor. Councillor Reid, you're next.
Thank you, Worship. It's a request. I need a little information because this kind of caught me on the hop.
So you're doing a question?
The question is, could we lay this item on the table for 1 month, which will give us time to seek from the incoming government what their thinking is around the mandate on fluoridation?
You've mixed up a question with procedural motion, so I just need to check.
I believe that the 23rd of November is when government will be.
Just let me clarify something here with my CE. You've mixed up a question with procedural motion, so just 2 seconds.
Time frame for complying with this is extremely tight. I'm concerned that any delay would mean that we wouldn't deadline as stated. We don't know at this point when the new government formed, when they'll be in a position to answer that question.
Just
would you like me to repeat?
Understanding the 23rd of November is the date of the confirmation of the new government. Could be wrong, but that was the date I was given.
Okay, Councillor, so we've got a question here with a procedural motion mixed up into it.
Yeah. Well, in answering the question, as I said previously, the time frame to undertake work to meet the deadline provided by the Director General is tight, and we may not make it with any further delays. And secondly, I don't know whether the government will be in a position to be able to respond to that question.
I'm just trying to find a way through this that's not going to end up with councillors at each other's throats when we have a cup of tea shortly.
We don't do that.
Okay, so no question there, sorry.
And just to answer the procedural question, you haven't spoken to this, you've asked a question, I believe. Is it okay?
Probably the next question that probably needs to be asked that is if this is constructed, and this will read through the team here, and the government is to change their ruling on it, what happens with the funding and with the construction of the equipment?
through the chair. The contract. So we've been through a procurement process. The contractors kept their price and kept their contract available until the end of October. So just to add to the previous conversation, if we don't proceed, then we would need to re-tender. That would change things. It's very hard to say what might change. I guess one of the factors with this is the worst case scenario if the government or direction from the Ministry of Health changes and fluoridation is no longer required. We would simply have a facility that has the ability to do that, but we just don't use it. And given that it's funded by the government, at least in that case, it's not actually being funded by ratepayers. So there's that side to things as well.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Benny.
Just a question. So it doesn't include Poroti. So just a question for Mr. Binmore. What is the cost for Poroti, and has the whatever they are called given some indication that they will pay for the fluoridation of that?
Through the chair, the cost of Poroti would be approximately $750,000, and we haven't had those discussions yet. But there's an opportunity to. They have said there's an opportunity for us to approach them at the time, and they will consider an application at the time.
Okay. And just a secondary question: would it be possible to take Councillor Olsen's amendment in parts if it comes to that? I think that might be wise.
You were at the moment. I'm sorry, Councillor. That's something that's to be asked at that time. Okay. Okay. Councillor Reid, back to you again.
Question.
Yes.
Your Worship. Could we put a 0.7 in the recommendation that we write urgently to the incoming government seeking whether they support or otherwise the directive from the Director General of Health to mandate fluoridation?
So you're asking for an amendment to the motion. Amendment to the amendment.
I'm seeking advice on it.
Okay. So, right, I'm just being clarified here. What you're asking is you're asking for the mover of the amendment to add that to the amendment if they're prepared to do that. So I'll go back to Councillor Connor as the mover and Councillor Mackenzie as the seconder. Are you prepared to have that? No, you're not. Okay. And that's, you're saying no, you're just not shaking your head. Right, thank you. Okay, so at this point, thank you, Nicolene. You guys always love doing this. So at that point there, since the mover of the amendment is not prepared to include that, you have the right to move an amendment to the amendment.
I shall do so.
That add number 7 in there. You will need a seconder for that. Councillor Olsen's allowed to second that? No, I don't think so. She can.
No.
Actually, no. Councillor Go Lightly is offering second. Okay, yes, I've got a nod there from Nicolene. Councillor Go Lightly. He hasn't spoken. Right, so sorry, Councillor, just making sure here. So you are moving the amendment. Now the amendment to the amendment is, can you please read out number 7 so that everyone understands very clearly what that amendment is?
0.7 will read, we write urgently to the incoming government seeking whether they support or otherwise the directive from the Director General of Health to mandate fluoridation. And there should be a comma in this.
So that's basically, yeah, okay, so you're putting it as item 7. So it's been moved to second. You have the right to speak to that.
Just briefly, Your Worship, thank you. Being Chair of Infrastructure, I don't want to hold up any work of any sort, but I will if I need to or feel the need. It's just in the best interest of our whole district that we do get on with stuff, and we have heard from my General Manager of Infrastructure that should this be turned around, the plant can simply be left mothballed in case it is required at some future date, which I will keep in the back of my mind, and I will remind him, no doubt, in the future. And this hopefully will quell some of the angst I feel reverberating around the chamber this morning. Thank you.
Point of order. A clarification sort. Is that a double negative, the amendment to the amendment, because it's the same as the original motion?
No, it's not. Actually, I did. That's why I was getting Nicolene to just double check on it.
Yeah.
It's definitely not a double negative. This is actually just adding to it.
Okay.
So it's not actually saying not to do any of this. It's basically saying they want to have a point of clarification from the incoming government.
Thank you.
Just that's why I did clarify with Nicolene. Appreciate that, Councillor McKenzie. Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Your Worship, and I've got to confess and apologise. I am confused now because when Councillor Holson spoke, she said it was going to cost us $4 million, but then when the head of infrastructure, general manager of infrastructure, spoke, he said this money's coming from the government. So which is it, Your Worship?
Okay. So just for clarification purposes on that, the funding is all coming from central government. I have a nod there from Jim at the same time. The last year when they mandated, the team were proactive and they went straight to central government and said, we are not going to pay for this, because our community at the time made a clear indication to us that they didn't want it. So they said, you'll have to pay for this. The central government at that time were quite obliging. I don't ask you how, but they were, or it must have been the negotiating skills of the team for them to get them to pay for that. So that's where the funds come from. So it hasn't actually come from the ratepayers as such.
I seem to remember a meeting where we asked for that, Your Worship. So that's good. Glad that that came through. So just to be very, very clear, we are back now on the motion and the emotion that's printed in the agenda on page 255. It includes points 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7.
Correct.
So we can proceed and at the same time ask for clarification on the new government's position.
That is correct, Councillor. I hope that it's helped out with your confusion.
It has. I really appreciate Councillor Reid coming up with that. Thank you.
Okay. Now, I have seen lots of microphones come on and go off over this time, so I'm wondering if these questions have been answered. Okay. Okay, Councillor, we've got does everyone understand the motion at the moment, which is, as Councillor Cooper has highlighted, 1, 6 plus 7, which was the amendment from Councillor Reid. So the first thing is when we vote on the amendment, which is Councillor Reid, to be added to that amendment before we go to the amendment itself.
Division on each, please.
So you're asking for a division on the amendment, because that's what we're at the moment.
Division on each one. Division on the amendment. Changing the amendment from the original.
Just to highlight, Councillor, you're at the moment you're just asking for a division on the amendment of the amendment.
Yeah.
Just keep it to that right now, because you can make it very complex at this point. Okay. So just keep that in mind. Would you like me just to clarify again, Councillors, just to make sure?
Yes, please.
No, I've got it.
Okay. So just so that everyone understands, is there anyone else going to talk to this motion, the amendment here? No? Okay. So the one you're voting on at the present moment is to add point 7, which is we write urgently to the incoming government seeking whether they support or otherwise a directive from the Director General of Health to mandate fluoridation. That is what we're voting on right at this point. So if the division has been called, all those in favour, please raise your right hand. Those against, please raise your right hand. Any abstain? No. Carried. Okay, so that's now been added to the motion, the amendment, shall I say. We're now moving on to the amendment. You're asking for division on each item there as one item. That's now part of the amendment, which is including from 1 to 6 plus 7. Okay. So division has been asked on the whole motion, not individual parts. Thank you. Just making sure. Sorry, I have to clarify these things, councillors, just to make sure everyone's fully understanding. Okay, division has been called on that council 1 through to 6 plus 7. All in favour, please raise your right hand. Okay, and those against? Those abstaining? Councillor Cooper, that is inappropriate language.
I apologise.
And I do not want to hear that language in here ever. No. Okay, so the amendment has become the substantial motion. Division for the whole thing, so it's now we'll vote on the whole motion as it is, because it's now the amendment has become the substantial motion. Okay. All those in favour, please raise your right hand. Those against? Any abstaining? Thank you, councillors. We've now moved on to that. That's all done. It has been passed. Thank you, councillor. So the team can now continue with the work. Council, we are going to have a 10-minute break. This will take us to 11:31, according to that clock up there, which will allow the team to also move, and at the same time we'll move into confidential. So Councillor Reid and Councillor Olsen will move us into confidential. All those in favour? Any opposed? Carry. Okay, councillors, we're now going to move to confidential. You've got a 10-minute break for the team set things up.